Welcome to HortTube. My name is Jim Putnam. In this video, I'm going to be showing you some Camellia Japonicas that are actually in a yard that I did a full-on tour video of just a couple of months back. I'll link that up here in the corner if you want to take a look at this entire yard. Back then, there were perennial flowers in bloom and a lot of other things flowering. It's now the end of December, and I really want to put an emphasis this winter on showing you ways in which you can have color in the winter time. Of course, camellias are going to be southern plants. These are hardy in zone 7 to 9. These are Camellia Japonicas. The Camellia Sasanquas have mostly bloomed out at this point by Christmas typically. I'll show you a couple flowers that are still on a couple Camellia Sasanquas here. Now is when the Camellia Japonicas kind of take over, but this is early to have this many flowers on this Camellia Japonica. We got some nights in the low 20s, maybe 3 or 4 weeks back, and now it's warmed up, and they think it's February, I believe, and they're full on blooming right now. So I wanted to get this while I could, because I think with these blooms wide open, anything we get in the low 20s now is really going to significantly damage them. So we're going to walk around and take a look. I do not know the names of many of these varieties. They're untagged. This is a huge collection of them, and so I wish I knew all the names of the cultivars, but I don't. But I think you will find the beauty in them regardless. So let's take a look around. So first of all, let's look up here in this tree canopy. These are deciduous trees, and so they offer these camellias quite a bit of shade in the spring, summer, and fall, but in the wintertime they actually allow quite a bit of light in here, which is great for these flowers opening. This is just an absolutely beautiful variety, and what you'll see in these variegated Camellia Japonica flowers is a lot of variability. Here's two flowers here, and you can see just a very striking difference between the two of them. One will have more white, one will have more pink, that kind of thing. Camellia Japonicas typically have larger leaves like this, but there's a few that is not the that's usually my identifying factor, but sometimes it doesn't work. Here's a really nice, kind of a formal double pink variety here. Look at that. I hope it'll focus on it. You can see how full, beautiful that flower is. Let me give you some sense of the size of them. This one's probably at least I would say 4 inches across. Right there, big, beautiful plant. And look at it in the winter. What if this plant didn't have flowers on it? I mean, Camellia Japonicas are still beautiful. This lustrous, dark green foliage. I'm gonna swing around on the driveway here and show you another one here that's just opening. It's kind of a pinkish red. Look at the size of the flower buds on these. He actually uses gibberellic acid on some of these, which increases the size of the buds and the flowers and actually the length of times that they bloom. If you're interested in learning about that, let me know in the comments. It is an interesting technique that a lot of camellia enthusiasts use. Look at this one right here, right there. Slightly smaller flower on this one, but really beautiful, dark pink. I'm gonna swing slowly back around. Look at the flowers that are under this first one that I showed you, the one I was standing in front of when the video started. Just beautiful. Even the litter on the ground is quite beautiful. There's several varieties here over this retaining wall that haven't started opening yet. Look at the size of this flower bud right here, just so you can get some, it's almost 2 inches long. Here's a really beautiful flower here. He shops a lot at Camellia Forest, and I did a tour video at Camellia Forest last year. I will link that up at the top of the video so that you can see that when I did name all the varieties in that one. This is a Camellia Sasanqua here that's still holding on to a few flowers right there. This one would have been absolutely covered a month ago. See the really tight growth habit. But let's look at the foliage. It's quite a bit smaller. I'll come back to this Camellia Japonica here, and you can see how much larger the foliage is. Like I say, that's generally one way to ID them when they don't have flowers on them. So are camellias good for the pollinators? I would say yes. Look at the bees on this one. It's windy this morning, so it just knocked them off, but look at them come right back to it. There's been 4 or 5 bees on that flower the whole time I've been here this morning. This is a beautiful white variety. And, you know, generally speaking, when white fades in the landscape, I don't like the way they, you know, white flowers brown out. But there's something about camellias that, you know, has kind of a yellow hue to it. And I actually think they're attractive even when they're in decline. But, you know, this is a big opportunity for these bees on the end of December to find something that they're able to use. Swinging around any of these, you know, kind of dark evergreen spots in this yard are Camellia varieties. Here is a beautiful one here. This one actually has not even been planted, but look at that. It's just really, really striking, really beautiful, but still in a 3-gallon container there. But it's budded up, you know, all over there. Okay, let's look at this. Look at this flower, this double. This one's probably about 3.5 inches across or so. This tree, this Camellia Japonica is now a tree, and it's probably 12, I would say 12 feet or so in height, but the flowers are just amazing. Here's a spot right here where 2 have come out together and kind of formed one round flower. Hope you can see that. That's really, really quite beautiful. There's several varieties out here that don't have any open flowers on them yet. Probably a week or 2 away from that happening. He's got a lot of winter interest out here regardless. Something like this Japanese maple, still beautiful in the winter time. Coming around this way, here is another variegated one. Hopefully I can pull one of these around here without damaging it right there. It's got a little bit of burn on the edge of it. Sorry, I don't think that's focusing on that. It's got a little bit of burn on the edge of it. We got some cold, like I say, a few weeks ago that probably damaged that bud slightly, so it didn't open quite perfect. Here's one he's put in a container on this deck that he acquired at Camellia Forest recently, and I don't want to go overboard grabbing that flower, but you can see that crazy variegation in it, the pink and kind of white striping that's in this variety. Here's something we can get sometimes on these camellias here's a white one that has some pink variegation in it, and on the same plant, one branch over is a solid pinkish red one, but they're right here side by side on the same plant. That's really beautiful, and you'll get that in the variegated ones. You'll get some variability of just solid whites or solid pinks or solid reds, and then of course then mixes of variegations. Here's a very large full plant here, and only one flower's opened on it yet, but I wanted you to see this one, just how perfect that is. If we get it to focus on it for some reason, sometimes it wants to focus on the foliage, but that really beautiful flower right there. It's got a little spotting on it. I'm guessing, like I say, there's probably a little damage from some nights we had in the low 20s when the buds were kind of close to opening. There are varieties just all over this yard. Some are blooming, some are not. Here's a Camellia Japonica on the other side of the fence here that's bloomed out. This variety right here has kind of a point on the leaf right here, and it's just budded up to bear. I believe this is Crimson Candles. This is one I can usually, one of the few camellias I can recognize without being in flower. But I think that's what that is. It's kind of got a longer, narrower leaf, and it's a really prolific flowering camellia. If you were trying camellias out the first time, Crimson Candles would definitely be on my list for one. It's always reliable. It'll start, it has the leaf size of a Camellia Japonica, but it actually doesn't bloom until after the worst of the cold in the winter time. So kind of an unusual bloom time on it, but it's always super reliable. I always sold tons of these when I was growing them. He's got this beautiful Edgeworthia or paper bush that I had pointed out in the other tour video. It had foliage at that time, but there's the flower buds are on it now. It's a really interesting plant that blooms in the late winter, super early spring, super fragrant. The flowers kind of point downward, which is kind of interesting, you know, so it takes away a little bit of the showiness, but super interesting plant that's fragrant and blooming when not much else is blooming. This is a really beautiful variety here that's white, got a little bit of pink in it. The sometimes on these camellias, you don't, the flower won't open fully. You know, here it had some leaves or a branch underneath it that kind of squeezed it a little bit there, didn't allow it to fully open up. Here's another Camellia sasanqua that is still showing some color right here. And there's a lot of newly planted Camellia japonicas in this yard. You know, there's another one that's, you know, 3 feet high. Another one here that's, you know, lots of newly planted ones. Here's a nice pink and white here. A little bit of damage on it from some cold, but beautiful variety with the white edge and the pink in the center. Let's take a look at this one right here. Oh, this is a nice one too. Look at this. Oh, what a beautiful flower that is. How can you beat that one? Hellebores are confused and putting on quite a bit of growth. This is an Osmanthus fragrans right here that's still blooming and still very fragrant right here at the end of December. I have a ton of Camellia videos on this channel, and there's actually a playlist called Camellias. I'll link it up here if you're interested in learning more about them. Like I say, most of them are hardy in zone 7 to 9. There are some called Ackerman hybrids that are hardy into zone 6. I would not fall or winter plant those in zone 6. I would spring plant them in a protected space under some trees, maybe near a foundation, that kind of thing. But you may have the opportunity to grow some of those Ackerman hybrids in your, you know, if like I say, if you're in zone 6. Those were released by the National Arboretum, and they are reputedly more cold hardy. I've never tried to grow a camellia in zone 6. I don't know, but that is what that's what I understand about them. But again, anytime you're moving something, you know, out of an area it's comfortable in into a more cold, a colder area, do spring plant it and plan on being able to winter protect it or have it near the you know, the envelope of the house. So again, thank you very much for watching this video.